Good afternoon. In this video, we're going to cover this week's watch list. Before we get into the watch list, if you're not in the room, the link is in the description of the video and in the bio section of social media. Also remember that this is a short week. Thursday's a half a day. The market will close at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we close Friday for New Year's. So it would be a lot like last week, a 3.5 day trading week. It could be light volume, not much action. So we'll just have to deal with it accordingly, and just don't expect too much this week because there might not be the volume there. So a lot of the big hedge funds, the big boys, will probably be on vacation still or not around until next week. So I don't imagine too much is going to happen. So with that said, also I'd like to mention that the new payment structure does go out January 1st, 2021. So there's only a few more days to take advantage of that free upgrade to premium. Also, obviously there's only 3.5 more days of the year. So we'll have to see how everything ends up playing out as far as the market. So with that said, I'll get started with the bullish side and the bear side. There's quite a few on here, not too much. I mean, I don't want to overdo it with a lot, but BABA is one of the first ones I'll be looking at. I mean, you look at the weekly here. I mean, it did get down to the 210 area, and there's a lot of support right in here on the weekly and the daily. So the fact that it bounced off that 210 and got to 222, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if BABA does end up taking off this week and trying to fill that gap. So I would watch it over 224 for it to push to the 230, which is the gap resistance, and if there's any strength behind it, it could quite possibly fill the gap or try to fill it, at least get to the 248 area. So I'd be watching for BABA for a reversal. Costco is another one. I don't know where my mouse went. There we go. Costco is another one. I mean, I know that Costco is still up quite a bit on the weekly, but on the daily, it looks like it's starting to bottom out. It's oversold in the stochastics, and it's starting to curl around. So if it does manage to get over this 365 area, that I'd watch it for a push to 370, 372, even the 375 area. So Costco will be on watch for a nice reversal. Home Depot is another one that could possibly make a reversal too, or actually continuation. I mean, on the weekly, it's just it gets below this 267 area and 266 area, and it likes to bounce off that area. So we're starting to see like an inverted head and shoulders on the daily. I mean, you got I said daily, weekly. Right here, you get the left shoulder, the head, and it looks like it's starting to form the right shoulder. So if it does manage to get over the even on the hourly, if it gets over 272, it's probably going to make a push to the 275 area. Now if it manages to get over the 276 area, it's probably going to push to 279. Then if it does manage to get over that, it could take off and end up going to 285 or even 290. So Home Depot's got some room. Johnson & Johnson, I mean, it's just starting to look like it wants to break out. I mean, look at it on the weekly. I mean, it didn't drop much. It's holding pretty well on the weekly. So I mean, if it does get over 154, it's probably going to make a run to all-time highs of 157. So 160 probably be the area to watch. Nice fat round number. So that's what I'm thinking about on Johnson & Johnson. Now Amazon, AMZN, it's got a symmetrical triangle right here, right on the weekly, the daily. You can see it there too. So with lockdowns coming down, obviously with Johnson & Johnson, they have something going on with vaccines, so that will help Johnson & Johnson. But back to Amazon, lockdowns coming getting more, taking more of an effect, that it's going to be good for Amazon, and people will be buying more online because they can't go and get them in person, or they don't want to, or whatever, because of a non-essential, or whatever the reason is. But Amazon does really well against these lockdowns, so I'd watch it over. I'd even say, you could even say 3180, but anything over 3200 is probably going to push to 3300, and even 3400. So I'll have to see if Amazon gets any strength this week from the lockdown. So Adobe is another one that is starting to look good too. I mean, the weekly, it's pushing up. I mean, you get like an ascending triangle right here. So I think that if Adobe gets over the 503 area, it's probably going to push to 507. Then it does get over 507. You get 510, the big round number. Then you get 515 right in here, and you also get the 520 area. So I'd watch that. Even if it does manage to break over 520, it's probably going to go to all-time highs of the 535, 536 area. So I would watch that if the market is strong. Now, if the market is weak, on the bearish side, I mean, Lululemon, I mean, I'm always liking buying the dip on Lululemon, but it's just you get these big sell-offs on Lulu, and just I don't know. We just think that if it just keeps continuation down, it could end up seeing 335, maybe even 330, even 320 is possible if it has any massive sell-offs. But even if they do, that Lulu has been pretty much buy the dip. So if it does get in oversold conditions on the daily, that I'll probably really consider buying the dip on that. So, but it does have more downside. I mean, if you want to short the Lulu under 350, you probably get a push down to the 340 area, then 335. Then you get the 325, even 320. I mean, anything under 320 or 325 is worth picking up for a long-term hold on Lululemon. So definitely watching that. Roku is another one. Roku just keeps going and going and going. It's so disconnected from the this RCT trend line on the weekly and even on the daily. And every time it gets really disconnected from it, it needs to come back and retest it. It doesn't need to, but it usually does most of the time. So I would watch it underneath. I think it definitely needs to let some air out. I mean, look at the RSI on, it's like over 80 on the weekly, and it's just insane. So and you also get divergence. It's been going on since 11:30 to now, so almost a month worth of divergence going on right here. I mean, prices are going up on the daily, and the histogram is going down. So there's divergence going on for almost a month plus on Roku, and I think Roku is just going to have one of those days. It's just going to get pounded. And so I watch it underneath. I would say even 350. If it gets underneath 350, get some area right here at 348, 340. Then you get this 332 area, then you get 320, and you get the 300. I don't imagine it's going to get below 300 unless something really radical happens in the market. It sells off. That's more lockdown that affects Roku and stuff like that. So we'll have to see if that actually happens. Disney is another one. I mean, obviously, if the lockdowns continue, it's going to affect them. I know they have Disney Plus, but Disney Plus, I don't really think it's nothing special. I mean, it's not like Netflix. I mean, Netflix just keeps adding, and Disney's. I mean, I have Disney Plus, and I don't really use it ever. I mean, once in a while. I mean, the Marvel stuff, I mean, it's nothing. It's lacking. So I think that it's got a gap here to fill, and if the more lockdowns happen, the parks end up getting closed, I'd watch it underneath 172 for a push to the 170, and you get gap support here at 168. You get gap support right there, but the actual gap support's right here at 165 because that's the low of this wick. But you can even say that's gap support if you wanted to, if you want to go based on that. But Will also act as gap support right here at 165. If it breaks that, it's probably gonna shoot down to 155 on Disney. So we definitely watch that. QCOM. I mean, QCOM's the same thing. I mean, you get kind of like a head and shoulders pattern going on in the daily. You get the left, the head, and the right. So if it does manage to get under, I mean, look at also the weekly. It's the price action is so far above the RCT trend lines. I mean, look, it gets demolished here. It comes out. I mean, acts as a magnet. It gets above it, it comes back down. It gets below, it comes back up. It's just a huge magnet on the weekly. So we'll have to see if the head and shoulders play out. So I would watch it underneath 147 for a push to 145, down to 142, 144, and 141. If it does manage to break to 141, it's got a gap here to fill down to the 130. So I'll definitely be watching that. Now BA. Had more headlines from them with the emergency landings and engine failures and stuff like that. So I'd imagine that, but BA is probably going to get wrecked. But BA also is one of those stocks that gets bad news and it just ends up doing well. I don't know why. So we'll just have to see if what happens. But I'd be looking for it under 215 for a push to 210, and then you get the area of like. You get 200 right here, but you get a little bit of support in the 205, 200. Now, if it breaks 200, you get a gap here in the 190s, and you get gap support down here in the 180. Then you get a big gap right here from, I think that was when they announced that they're gonna, the FAA said that it was okay to fly again or whatever. I don't know, but I think so. That was the area. So you get that gap support right down here at the at 180. So BA, who knows how low that can go. Facebook, I mean, it's just I would think that Facebook would be doing a little better, but they're just getting hammered with bad news lately. So I'd be watching it on 265 for a push to 260. You even get area right here at 250. Then you get this gap right here from earnings that could fill, which is down in the 235 area. So we'll have to see if Facebook does manage to break below. It's getting so much downward pressure right here. I mean, you get like a descending triangle going on. I mean, you can draw it from back. I mean, right here you can draw it from here to here to here. I mean, you could say it's a symmetrical triangle right here if you draw it from like here to here. So I mean, you get a couple patterns going on, and you can also say it's a head and shoulders. You get a left shoulder here, the head, and the right shoulder. So we'll have to see if Facebook does play out in that direction. So I'll be watching those if the market's weak. So that's gonna do it. I know that's more that I probably wanted to talk about on a short week, but there's a couple of good plays that could play out depending on the market direction and what happens news-wise. So that's what I'll be looking for. Make sure that you subscribe. Please like the video. It helps out quite a bit, especially with the YouTube algorithm. And thank you for watching.